And so digging down into that has been really one of the greatest joys of my life because I get to help. I'm a helper. And I get to connect with like the coolest women on earth. I just like over the last 2 weeks, I've been able to work with 14 different small business owners in one way or another. Either I hired them or they hired me, or we just crossed paths. And it fills my cup so high that it's better for me. I mean, to be honest, it's not work for me. And I don't know, I want everybody to feel like that. I want every woman on earth to be like, I don't feel like I have to go to work because this is not work for me. I mean, I didn't get up this morning and was like, ugh, I have to go do a podcast today. This is the highlight of my day.
Imagine waking up tomorrow and going after what you really, really want in life. I'm Melly, and you are listening to the interview podcast of me, where encouraging myself means inspiring everyone. I believe everyone has a unique gift meant to be lived. We all have the power to create the life we truly want, if we dare to pursue it. Choosing a career that doesn't fit you is like being trapped in a self-made cage. It's not just about finding a job. It's about discovering a path that fills your soul with joy and purpose. That's why I'm sharing stories from my personal heroes. People who followed a path that truly aligns with their passions and values, and it changed everything for them. I will also introduce you to mentors who will help you unlock your greatest potential. Thank you so much for being here. Women need other women in their lives to think that they're a big deal. Oh yes, ladies, we do. And I just found a really amazing one in Wisconsin. And I found her through the internet when I was looking for someone to teach me about scanner personalities. I found Katy Ripp, who now owns several businesses. She now started to coach people, women like me, multi-passionate, multi-talented, ambitious women, to help them create the life that they've always dreamed of. She was just such a joy to talk to. This has been an incredible conversation, and we had so much fun talking to each other and sharing stories, and I think you're really, really, really going to enjoy it. And how did you get to the point now where, I mean, what you're also doing as part of your job working, is that you're actually helping women like with personalities like that are ambitious to succeed and figure themselves out, and like at what sort of stage do they come to you, and how do you help them? How do you work with them? What's your process?
Yeah. So about a year and a half ago, I got called by a young entrepreneur that was putting together a women's event. And she asked me if I would be a speaker. And I had never done a public speaking engagement, nor had anybody ever asked me. And she's a very successful baker in our area. And I had always sort of looked up to her, but I could be her mother, right? She's like 25 or something, and I'm going to be 46 this year. So I could be her mother. And I was like, oh my God, you want me to come and talk? Sure. Like, I feel very honored that you asked me, but like, what the hell am I going to talk about? And what I did talk about was the 42 different jobs I've had, the failures that were like perceived failures, but for me, they were just stepping stones, like learning experiences. I really don't have the fear of failure because I really just don't. Failure has such a horrible negative connotation in our society. And there just is no such thing. I just don't believe in failure. It's just, it's like a failed experiment. Well, how do you think you get to the good stuff? You have to fail at some shit to know what works. Yeah. And so I made, it was about 75 women. I made this speech. I looked like my mother when I went in, right? And everybody was like dressed to the nines, and I had like a nice little black cardigan on. And I was, 20 years their senior probably. But I ended up being really relatable, I think. And while I have some success, it's not come without some failure and some challenges and some real hard, honest truths. And I had, of the 75 women, I had 12 of them the next day reach out to me. And at the time I didn't have a coaching.
Wow.
I didn't have a certification. I wasn't coaching. Yeah, I wasn't coaching.
You told some good stories then.
Yeah, I must have told
all about the stories, right? Isn't it?
So yeah, I mean, had I been prepared, it would have been a pretty good ROI, but I wasn't.
Oh my God. What would some people give for that?
Right? So what happened was I ended up having coffee with all 12 of these women. Some of them were much younger than me. Some of them were my age. And what I discovered is that there's room for me too. There's room for me to help mentor some small business owners, some entrepreneurs, some younger women that are looking for a way to do it differently. Yes. And I've done my businesses differently. My businesses are very heart-led. They are different. It doesn't mean I don't care about the bottom line. It doesn't mean I don't care about money. It doesn't mean I don't care about expenses and making money and buying my time back and being financially free. It doesn't mean any of that when you say heart-led. It just means I don't want to do it the way that some businesses are run. And I think we can do it differently. I think that we can be really caring. I think that we can take care of ourselves. I think that we can give ourselves time. And I realized that that's what lots of women are hungry for. They want to do it differently, but nobody's showing them how. Now, not nobody. I'm not saying there's nobody out there doing this. I'm the only one doing this. I'm just saying it's just not there. It just gets drowned out. It gets drowned out by all of the coaching programs out there for $15,000 that promise you $100,000 a year without getting down and dirty with what's keeping you from making $100,000 a year. So I started looking, of course, right? I have coffee with some ladies and immediately I was like, well, how do I make money at this? Right? How do I make this a job?
Yes.
And so I went down the rabbit hole like I do in anything and, coaching certifications and how do you make money from coaching? And is it mentoring or coaching? I have no interest in being a therapist or going back to school, right? I was not really into that. But I got some confidence from that. And I started looking around and I found the Mind Rebel Academy, which is out of Canada. I'm not a school person, so it was a little bit scary to do that. But I've also paid a lot of money in other coaching programs that just didn't do it for me. And even though I spent a lot of money, I never finished them. I would start and then I would be like, I can tell already that this is not for me. But I ended up talking with Taryn Watts, who is the founder of the Mind Rebel Academy. And she spoke to my soul. I feel like we have a really good connection. This is exactly how I felt with Taryn. And it was also over Zoom, right? You never really know. A connection is a connection. Yes. I don't know how to explain it. So she just really spoke to me and I was like, I'm in. I'm going to do this. I'm going to finish it. And I did. I only missed 2 classes in one whole year. I have my graduation June 21st. So this is I'll be certified and mentor, coach, everything. And I started coaching right away. So coaching is a little bit, it's completely, there's no governance.
No governance. No governance.
Coaching doesn't it's not like therapy where you have to have
clear guidance either. As
there
to
really
what needs to be done and how it needs to be done to be a proper, program or not.
Anybody can call them.
Yeah.
Anybody can call themselves a coach.
Yes.
They can be a social media coach. They can be a law of attraction coach, a manifestation coach, a business coach, a life coach, whatever you want to call yourself as a coach. You don't need a certification for it. You can just call yourself that. There's no governing body. There is the International Coaching Federation, the ICF. And I knew that if I wanted to do this, I was going to do it right. I was going to get a certification. I don't care about the letters behind my name, but I wanted to know a curriculum that made me feel authentic.
Yes.
And in doing that, I found my own authenticity, my own values. Like in this past year, it was all of the education, all of the knowledge I've built up over the last 2 decades, it all came together. And so I started coaching right away. I mean, that's what they want you to go out and practice while you're in the program. And so I started coaching friends, family, client, business people that, wanted a little bit of guidance. And I just found that I was really good at it and I really loved it. I can ask the hard questions without fear of the answer. I have gotten down and dirty with some women that have some pretty major walls up. Because I think that there's only a few things that hold us back as women. One of them is fear, right? We're fear of being judged, fear of being ridiculed, fear of being vulnerable, fear of being wrong. So many of these things. And then the other, we don't feel like we're worthy. We're not worthy of putting ourselves out there. And what do we have to offer? And the imposter syndrome and all of those things. And I feel them too, right? I can fake it till I make it for a good amount of time, but there is something to be said between the difference between self-worth and self-confidence. And so digging down into that has been really one of the greatest joys of my life because I get to help. I'm a helper. And I get to connect with the coolest women on earth. I just over the last 2 weeks, I've been able to work with 14 different small business owners in one way or another. Either I hired them or they hired me, or we just crossed paths. And it fills my cup so high that it's better for me. To be honest, it's not work for me. And I don't know, I want everybody to feel like that. I want every woman on earth to be I don't feel like I have to go to work because this is not work for me. I didn't get up this morning and was ugh, I have to go do a podcast today. This is the highlight of my day.
I know, right?
And I didn't even know you. And now that I do, I'm we're going to do something together that. Now I want to collaborate. I want to figure out, I want to come see you. Right? There's so much to be said about making connection and how that really just two people can just do so much when we collaborate and out of no competition. There's enough for everybody. I don't know. I want everybody to tiptoe through the tulips.
Yes. I know it's funny, right? I have similar thoughts and feelings like what you just described. I was just sitting here going, oh.
I know.
It's
so good.
That's how I feel. Cause there's rarely a day when I get up in the morning, even though, some days I still work on projects that don't get me excited. So I'm still in that point where I'm okay, I have to do that work for a company, which doesn't get me jumping out of bed essentially. But then there's enough to counterbalance that to kind of go, and I rarely in my life, I think, I always stopped doing the things when I realized they're not making me happy, that it's killing me, except when you had when I had a time when I had to be in some way. Sometimes we tell ourselves we have to be, but sometimes it's we kind of keep ourselves there. So I tend to whip myself out of it. So, and I think not not enough people do that, right? Not enough women do that. We just stay in these situations and also work-wise in these, and we think we have to, but we don't.
Yeah.
We don't.
Yeah,
And
we're
like
not
everybody gets to
stuck.
be like excited and happy and I don't know, to a place that doesn't feel like you actually have to do work. It's not work for
Yeah.
me, you know?
Yeah. There
I'm like
really
the
isn't.
same.
Of course, I'm not a monster, right? Like I still have to do shit that I don't want to do.
Well,
Of
I'm
course I
sure
do.
you don't like bookkeeping.
I actually have I also hired a bookkeeper, right? Like but I don't like bookkeeping, right?
Yeah.
Like I thought I was going to be really good at it and then I sucked and I had to pay more in taxes. So then I was like, okay, well now I have to hire somebody.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that there are people out there maybe not listening to this because you're probably not attracting this kind of person, but there are many people out there that the first thing they hear when you and I are like jumping out of our seats excited about our lives, well, it must be nice. It must be nice that you get to get up and you don't hate Mondays and your kids aren't crabby and you're, you don't have to work and, all of these to me, they're just excuses, right? Like they're just
right. Yeah.
There were times that I was doing shit that I was like, yeah, it must be nice to be that person over there that doesn't have any of the same issues that I have. Let me tell you, I've had plenty of issues in my life where I said no, thank you to. Like, no, thanks. I'm not interested in that, but I still had to go through it. Right? Like, we lost my father-in-law super early. We didn't expect it. It was totally unexpected. It threw our family life and our work life into the abyss. We had no idea what was going on. And then for years after that, nobody dealt with the grief. And people do crazy things in grief. Like behavior in grief is a whole different ballgame. And so it's not like I haven't been through my fair share. I didn't just wake up at 45 and was like, oh my God, my life is amazing. This took a lot of work and decades of feeling like shit until I realized I'm done. I was sick and tired of being sick and tired. And I say this a lot, I sat in a dirty diaper for 20 years until I figured out I was the one who had to take it off. I don't know if there's it's like the ugliest metaphor, but I had the power to take off my own diaper. I wasn't waiting for somebody to come and take it off. And that is one thing over the last year I've realized is I can save myself. We are our own heroes. Nobody is coming to save me. Nobody is coming to lose weight for me. Nobody's coming to tell me to put the wine glass down. Nobody's coming to tell me it's okay to make money. Nobody's telling me any of that. I have to tell myself. And that was the game changer for me. And now I'm tiptoeing through the tulips.
Do you think there's, when you say you realized there was a point, do you feel there is a point when people are just ready to hear that? And there's a point where people, because I think oftentimes, it's you feel people looking at you kind of going, I wish that, I wish I could have that. I wish, but Is it just people are not ready? Some people might never be ready, or is it the type of person? Is it a particular type that?
That is such a good question. I'm very particular about what clients I take, and you have to be ready. Now, does that mean that you think you're ready and you try it and you're like, nope, I'm not ready yet? Maybe. I also think that there's something to be said about middle age. Just the wisdom, knowledge plus experience equals wisdom. And I think that there's something about getting to this age where if you have kids, your kids are independent. They're, moving on out of the nest. If they're not out of the nest yet, I think really getting honest with yourself. Am I happy in this marriage? Am I stuck? Do I hate my job? Is this all there is? Right? Like we've checked all the boxes. We've gotten the kids out. We've done all this stuff. And then you get to a point where you're like, shit, all the things that I thought would fulfill my life don't. Just period. Like they just don't. I feel like there's something more out there. And that's when I love to talk to people, when they're like on the brink of escaping their life, right? Like they're looking for vacations. They're looking for escape at the bottom of a wine bottle or at the end of a Dorito bag or at the brink of an affair from somebody at work, right? Like there is a space for that, I think. Does it mean that everybody has to get to like a breaking point? No. Like if you want to make a choice, you want to make a life change, do it. But if you want to change, you have to change.
Yeah.
And that is really difficult to do, right? Like the biggest fears, and again, for me, it was alcohol. For somebody else, it might be Oreos or the way they eat. For somebody else, it might be a shopping addiction. For somebody else, it might be sabotaging a way to make more money, right? Like there are so many things that we medicate ourselves with, or we try to fill holes with, that if you can recognize that this actually isn't making me happy, whatever that thing is, there's lots of those things, right? Like for me, it was alcohol. And once I figured that out, once I was really honest with myself and I got over the fear of, yes, this is going to change my relationships with people, right? Like my biggest fear is I was going to lose all my friends. I wasn't going to have a social life. I was going to be bored. My marriage would change. What would I do at work functions? Right? Like, how would I be at my son's wedding or my daughter's wedding without a glass of champagne? Right? Like those were the things that were coming up in my head. And when I really realized that this is not going to get any better, I had to come to terms with these things are going to change. And I'm not going to have a glass of champagne at my kid's wedding. And it's going to be fine. Like, it's going to be fine. It's really hard. It's just hard. There's just no way around it. You got to go through it. There's no way around that kind of obstacle. Whatever change you make, whether you quit your job, you leave your marriage, you move to a different state, you start a new job, you open a business, whatever it is, it's harder than you think it's going to be because you're really like digging into like some limiting beliefs in there. So to answer your question, I don't really know if it's a person or if it's just timing. You work with, you coach. I would be curious about your answer to that.
I would actually think it's some people are never ready. They just I think some people are never ready in this lifetime maybe for that kind of growth. Essentially, because like what you just said, like you just have to go through it. That you prove that you can do it. You can overcome it, and we just have to want. I think is that being ready is it's a big point. I think, and I think you're that kind of person too. Like you really need to speak to people, women that are ready. They make a decision. It's like in your head, it's like a button, like a switch.
Yeah.
It's like you make the decision, you go and do it. And
to your point about like wanting it enough, I always thought I wanted it enough, right? Like I always thought like I've done everything and it still didn't work. And that was bullshit because I didn't do everything, right? Like there's I've tried everything. No, you haven't. You haven't tried everything. And
deep down, we know, right? deep down, if you're really honest with yourself, right?
If you're really honest with yourself, like you have to want it enough to change. And for me, like also I struggle with like weight loss and keeping on weight. And I always said to myself, I've tried everything. No, I tried enough to where it got uncomfortable and then I quit. Right? Like I didn't try everything until I tried everything. Right? And I always, this is sort of an inside joke around me, but like the rules apply to me too. I always thought the rules didn't apply to me, that I was like somehow special and like counting calories doesn't work for me. Well, guess what? I never tried. Like or like meditation doesn't work. That rule doesn't apply to me. Yes, it does. Actually, like all the things that they tell you, all the things you roll your eyes at are actually the things that work. Yes. And I had to get very honest because those were the things that I never tried. Those were the things that I didn't want it bad enough until I tried the things that actually work. And then when I tried them, I was like, oh, the rules do apply to me too.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's real.
That's real.
I'm not special.
Well, in that way, particularly not. But in other ways, yes.
In other ways, I'm definitely special. In that way, I'm not. I have to count calories just like everybody else.
That's right.
Yeah.
You were saying about what I wanted to ask also about if I'm like at that point now when I realize I'm like a scanner personality or I have a scanner personality and I love doing different things. And, that can also, I think, block us a little bit because then because we love so many things and we're interested in so many things. How the fuck do I find out what I should do, and decide and what I should concentrate my, I have a lot of energy, like what to concentrate the energy on. And I think, all the women that are like that, they're the same, and I've spoken to some that, when sometimes they just like, what is it? Like, where do because that's the hard part, prioritizing and figuring it out. And how do I do that?
This is going to sound very cliche and very easy, but like the thing that lights you up the most is what you should be doing. Are you familiar? I'm sure you are familiar with the Japanese ikigai.
Yes.
So, I'm probably going to butcher this, but it's basically what you're good at, what you are passionate about, what you can make money at.
Yes.
And all of those things put together. What I have discovered is the thing that lights me up most is this, right? Like me and you connecting, sharing, doing all the things that inspire other people, right? Like I know it sounds very, like I haven't totally embraced this. I wish I could, and I'm working on it. But like one of my biggest goals in life is to inspire someone else.
Yes.
That sounds very right? Like it sounds very self-fulfilling, right? Like kind of Jesus, like who are you to inspire somebody else? But like that is what I want. It is what I want to do. It is like a goal of mine in life. And that's just who I am. Yeah. I think when you find what lights you up, with the thing that you can do all day long, the thing that you never look at the time for, the thing that no matter what's on the outside of it, you can do it for hours. You can do it alone. You can do it with other people. You can, like it really lights you up. The rest of it will come. Like I really just believe that as long as I'm doing what I'm with good intention. I always have good intention. When I have like icky intention, I never get the attention it needs, right? Like if it doesn't align with me, it doesn't get anything. So I know that that's not the right thing for me.
Yeah.
But you have to really be honest. Like, does it really light you up? Or is it just something you're good at?
Yeah.
Because I'm good at a lot of things, right? Like I can grow a mean flower.
That's why it's so hard, right? That's why
it
it's
is
so hard.
I can make a really mean latte. I can scoop some really great ice cream. I can do books. I can talk to people. I can do a lot of really good things really well, but not all of them are in my zone of genius. Mm-hmm. They're in my zone of excellence, but that's sort of where we stay stuck because we don't think we can make money at it. We don't think we can find the customers. We're not going to be able to find the perfect, soulmate client, whatever it is. Mm-hmm. I truly believe that if you are working in your zone of genius, the gifts that God or the universe or however you feel that there's a bigger element out there for you, whoever gave that to you or whatever gave that to you, if you're working in it, the rest will always fall into place. And the more I believe in that and the more I stand in that, the more it becomes true. Mm-hmm. You didn't just land in my lap. I mean, you did sort of like you just landed in that is real. You just landed in my inbox.
Yes.
But you didn't really. We've been probably circling the same universe for, time isn't super linear, but who knows how long we've been circling each other.
Yes.
And then you do it. And I find this probably to be both of our zones of genius.
Yes.
However, we're really excellent at other things.
Yes. Yes.
Finding that is like digging deep. Mm-hmm. You got to know what your values are. And your values probably changed from values change. What I valued at 20, I don't value at 46.
Yeah.
I don't.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
And I think that there's lots of people that have never taken a values assessment, have no idea what words to even put to the things that they value, right? Like, of course, everybody's going to say, well, I value my family. Okay. Well, I do too. But there's 200 other things that you can value outside of that.
Yeah.
I think, again, really getting honest, who is this serving? When I do something in my life, is this serving me to the highest level or is this serving society?
Yeah.
And I think as women, we've made it really far. We are also saying, I don't have to work. Still.
Yeah.
And if you're one of the people out there saying, well, I don't have to work and I love it. It's amazing. I can lay by the pool all day long and do nothing.
I wish I cannot do it.
Right? I wish, no, I don't. Society wants me to wish that, right? Instagram tells me that that's all I want to do is play with my kids in the pool. No, I don't. I mean,
you need so much more. You need so much more to fill up your cup. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And I just know that. I know what makes me happy and what makes me misaligned. And when I'm misaligned, the universe shows me. It puts something.
How does it get shown?
I'll get some sort of, the universe likes to show me. When things are not aligned for me, I'll get a 1-star review of something, right? The coffee shop will get a 1-star review that the cappuccino was too cold. Which really has nothing to do with me, but it is a sign that doesn't really
something
totally
icky
work.
There.
Yeah. And now I've gotten into such a intuitive feeling that I physically feel it in my body, right? Since I quit drinking, I don't really have anxiety anymore until something is misaligned. And then I'm anxious about it. It rears its ugly head in guilt when I feel like I should be working and I'm not, that somebody else is working in my place. Where I feel like I should be, everything in my life is a sign. I just don't look at it in any other way anymore, right? Everything is a sign. We had a storm last night. It ripped part of our roof off. oh, I have to make an insurance claim today. And I'm like, what's the lesson here? And the lesson for me is all of my insurance packets came in the mail the other day and I didn't file them. They're like in my car floating around in the like back seat.
Yeah.
Like
that
now
could
I
be
need
me.
to put them away.
Yeah. I know.
Now I need to put them away. Recently, like most recently, we've been in, there's business debt, there's personal debt. It's all kind of debt to me and I don't like it. And we've been in the same kind of perpetual debt for years and years and years and years since we got married. And it's one of those things that's weighed really heavy on us. We always think we're going to get there. And finally, I just got to a point where I was like, and it came to fruition for us, right? Like my husband had a few bad months where he was slow and we were really worried. And he came up into the bedroom one day and said, and he just like looked very defeated.
Okay.
And I said, should I be worried? And usually he would be like, no, it's fine. It'll work out. And he looked at me and he said, I would be. And I was like, bullshit.
Serious.
And I immediately went to work. I got super honest about our debt and our financial situation. I pulled every single account, every single loan, everything out from underneath the bed. I put it into a spreadsheet. And I just got really honest. I got honest with a couple of people. I called my sister. I called a couple of really amazing mentor sister friends of mine. And I said, I have to be really honest about this. I have to put it out to the universe. I need help. Except I'm not willing to take help from anybody. I have to help myself.
Yeah.
And that was April 10th. And by May 22nd, we had every single dollar paid off.
Yeah.
Like time is not linear. It just like finally I got this.
That just, yeah.
It was
you
fascinating.
Just yeah. You just went. Yeah.
Yep.
Just took
but I had to get really honest. It just like, there's no other way for me to do it. And I have to get really vulnerable. When we pull stuff out from underneath the bed that we think should be shameful, and we take the shame off of it, it just becomes numbers.
Yeah.
Like these things don't make us bad people.
No. And everybody's got the same, everybody's got the same shit under their bed, at the end of the day, right?
Yeah.
It's like,
they do.
I mean,
and if you believe you're the only one, it's very isolating and very sad. And I just don't want people to feel that way anymore.
Yeah.
I just don't, I don't think there's room for it. In this day and age, there's just not room for shame.
Yeah.
I could go on and on about that.
And it's like terrible, worst energy on the scale of energies. Shame, just like, no,
shame
not
is like
doing it. Let's not do it.
Really,
exactly.
It's at its own levels.
Exactly. Let's just not do that anymore.
Yeah. Oh. I could literally talk to you for hours.
I know. I'm like, oh, this is like we're like over an hour, and it's like feels like I could just go on and on and on.
I love it so much.
I wanted to ask. Well, most of the question I haven't even asked you yet.
Sorry, I talk a lot.
I wanted to ask you, because you are, you say like you're working with ambitious women. Like, how would you define that? What is an ambitious woman? What do I want? What are my goals?
Let's see. I think ambition has a couple of different definitions, right? In our society, it can be really, like if you're ambitious, like if you're an ambitious woman, you're like kind of savage, right? Like you're just like, get out of my way. I'm doing all this. That's not the ambition I'm talking about. I'm talking about like the people I want to work with are the women that have these major big dreams and goals and are also doing all the other things, right? Like I know so many female entrepreneurs that have started their businesses from $0, right? Like on credit cards, on $0, like their own money.
Yeah.
I don't think most men do that. I think they're like, I'm not starting this business on my own money. I'm going to the bank to get money
most of
to
them
start it.
I think most of them. Yep.
Right. And so they've already been totally resourceful and resilient, and they've built these businesses with $0 to big revenue, built a team probably, but also are in charge of the dentist appointments for the kids, the diagnoses for kids, the social calendars for the husbands, this is true even if you don't have kids, right? Like all of it, you're still sort of expected to do the dishes, the laundry, the appointments, the vacation planning, the social calendars. So we're still living in this society of you can definitely be a boss babe, but you also have to be the domesticated one.
Yeah.
Not everybody is like this, right? Like I'm not trying to generalize every single woman and male partnership out there, right? Like I know we've come a long way, but the ambitious woman is still trying to do it all. And they're multifunctional and they're doing it, but they're hating it. And then they feel bad for hating it, right? Like we have this like,
we feel guilty.
So and we also, the kind of the ambitious modern woman, which I say modern woman, which what I really mean is old, right? Like what I really mean is middle-aged, because this is these are my people.
Yes.
But the ambitious people, like they want the 6-figure salaries. They want the money. Like they want the money, but they don't really want to say they want the money.
Yes.
Like we're still in that, well, I don't need to make $1 million. I just need to make enough to put my
not
kids
feel guilty about spending money, to not think about
like,
spending
what?
too much. Yes.
Have we? Now, do I struggle with this too? Yes, absolutely. Like there's no doubt. But when you say it out loud like that, it's really hard to deny that it's not icky. I don't know a better way to say it, that it's not true. That it's not aligned with really who we are. We can make $1 million. It's okay. Like there's nothing wrong with that. We're still not quite there. So the ambitious woman wants to make it. They just don't know how. And
they just don't know how. That's right.
They just don't know how because there's some worthiness stuff in there. There's some sabotage around it where when we don't feel like we deserve it, we're never going to make it. We have to know that we are worthy of making $1 million. We don't have to apologize for it. We don't have to defend it. You don't have to even have a reason why you want to make it. I don't care. I think that helps. I think, like, what are we trying to make the money for? Because once we make it, it's not going to make everything better.
We kind of need to, that's what's behind it. Like, why do we even, like, even when we're thinking, that could be good if we make that kind of money, we're already thinking, but what do I need it for really? Like what is it that I want the money for?
And then when you get into sort of like some nitty gritty details, like when you say, because I hear this a lot, I want to make $100,000. I want to make 6 figures. What does $100,000 mean? $100,000, is that the revenue before the expenses?
I was going to say,
is that what you're taking home?
Before tax, that's not really much.
Right. So is that what you're taking home? Is that revenue, or is it what you're collecting? Do you want here's the other thing. Do you want $100,000 in cash sitting in your accounts? Or do you want $100,000 worth of stuff? Because I can guarantee you've got $100,000 worth of stuff already.
That's right.
So getting down into that nitty gritty, because it's a really big, like, what does it mean once you get it? We can get you there, but what's it going to mean then? Because then $100,000 isn't going to solve whatever problem you have, because then it's going to be 200.
Yeah.
And then it's going to be 500. And then it's going to be like, what is $1 million going to get me? And really, I think most people, ambitious people too, we just want peace.
Yeah.
We want peace and contentment. And we think $100,000 is going to give us that, or a 50-pound weight loss is going to give us that. It might help.
Yeah. Yeah. It might help. Yeah. So when you, the people that women that you speak to, are they mostly entrepreneurs, or do you speak to women also that work or want to work in corporate jobs? Is it like that with our type of personalities? Like what are we most suited to? Is there something?
For a long time, I really did not want to pigeonhole myself into like entrepreneurship. That's, I didn't really want to like niche down all the way to that, because I think that so many of the things that we deal with as women are very universal. It doesn't really matter if you're a working woman, if you're at home, if you're, own your own business. In working with entrepreneurs mostly, I find them to be a different breed of women, right? Like a lot of us have lots of ideas. We also have that figure it out gene, which I think is like a fascinating trait to have. Right. It happens to be that I work mostly with female founders. They're either have been in business for 10 years and want to level up, or they're just starting out and they're younger, or they've left a job and now they want to start this business. The line between professional and personal for women, if it's there at all, it's very blurred. Yeah. If you own a business, there is just nothing in your personal life that doesn't spill over into your professional life. You can't leave it at the door. Again, I'm generalizing here. Many men can. My husband leaves for work and the only thing he thinks about all day long is work. No fault of his own. I've also made my bed, right? Like I've also trained our life to be like this, but I'm the first one to get calls.
I was going to say, because the school doesn't have his number on speed dial. When something happens, when the child is sick or whatever, they don't have his number. It's the mom's number.
That happened one time. And the only reason that they called him because they couldn't get a hold of me, it was because the nurse that was treating our son was friends with my husband and had his number, right? Like she called him from her cell phone.
Exception. Doesn't count.
Exception to the rule.
That doesn't count.
Right. Again, it's not like my kids are home for the summer. My husband leaves like they're still in school. I don't even know if he knows that they're out of school.
They just pretend everything is just like a setup. I know this from friends of mine, like friends too, like they both work very hard. She even has like, right now he's not even working fully, and she's still at home doing everything. Like, everything. She's like, just, and then we wonder sometimes why we feel exhausted, right?
Why we drink bottles of wine? It's weird.
Well, at least you just feel exhausted when you actually choose something that you really want to do. And, in that sense, we're lucky. But obviously there's so many women out there that just are, stuck in what, careers and work and lives also, like where they kind of put themselves somewhere. And you can't say it differently. You can't say like you actually put yourself in this situation because you choose that, right? So, and
I'll take responsibility. I don't tell my husband like, hey, you need to take care of the kids today. Like and he's a really good dad. I'm not right. I always tell people when they come in to see me too, like, first of all, I know your husband's a really great guy. You don't need to tell me that your husband's a really great guy. I know it. Mostly I know these people. And if I don't, I'm like, listen, I'm sure they're great. That doesn't like let them off the hook. You don't have to well, first of all, like everything's confidential. I'm not going anywhere. Plus, I'm not going to judge your husband after you walk out of here. Like, oh God, he's a real asshole. He hasn't done the laundry for a year. I don't care. We also have to stop being like, my husband's a really great guy. I just want you to know he's really great. But he also doesn't do anything. Right? Like I have all the responsibility.
Yeah.
I have I am carrying the weight of our entire family. Not only am I the CEO of of my own company that I started from zero, I'm also the CEO of my family.
Yes, we are. Yeah.
Right. Like we're taking care of the finances. We're taking care of the domestics. We're making sure everybody's fed. We're making sure the groceries are done. And then when it's not done, we're extremely underappreciated. No wonder people are having a crisis when their kids leave.
Yes. And nowadays we're also being told we're not feminine enough, right? So we're not enough in our feminine energy, right? So we need to, on top of all the things, on top of all the other things now, we need to dial it back and get back into feeling and being feminine, right? And receiving. Isn't it right?
We just cannot win. And I'm sure this sounds like I'm bitching about all men everywhere. I'm not. My husband's a really great guy too, right? Like I get it. It's just a lot. And we expect so much out of our women these days.
Yes.
And then we wonder why mental health is a problem.
Yeah.
Then we wonder why people are medicating. Then we wonder why there's $1 trillion, industry of skin and beauty care. Then, I don't know how we can wonder these things when it's right in front of our face.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, totally. It's the burnouts, it's the skin issues. It's often like with women, I know it from myself, I know it from friends of mine, like we're getting skin problems, it's like the kind of like inflammation, the stress. It's like trying to find an outlet somewhere, right? To show you something's not working here.
Yeah. Have you seen the Barbie movie?
Not yet, but I've heard quite a bit about it now. Yeah.
Yeah. So the Barbie movie is fascinating, actually.
Yes.
I watched it with my daughter who's 12 and I was like, oh my God, this is sort of fascinating. But there's a monologue in that.
Yes.
Maybe you've seen it, but it's like a full on 2-minute monologue about, like you have to be thin, but you need to be healthy looking. You have to be strong, but not too strong, right? Like it's this really amazing monologue about like, and I think it made most women cry because they were like, finally somebody said it. And it was in the Barbie movie.
Yeah. And like out of all the things in the world, it's the Barbie.
Exactly.
The perfection that we grew up with. Katy, I could speak with you for hours.
We're going to. We're going to do
like
it.
Amazing.
It's
like bang, bang, bang. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. Thank you so much for spending
Of course. Thank you for having
so much time with me.
Real pleasure.
Hey, and thanks for tuning in today. I hope you have enjoyed this episode as much as I did. And if you did, I would be super, super grateful if you could leave me a review. It really helps me to inspire more listeners to follow their own path. And if you want to connect with me, you can find me on Instagram and LinkedIn. And if you are ready to take your next step to work-life happiness, I would be thrilled to help. You find all links in the show notes below. See you next time, and thanks for being part of ME.